What's up, witches? We're so excited you're here today. We're going to be talking all about 2025 and closing loops so that you can stop living from survival and start moving into thriving so that you can close up all of these loose ends and begin to live 2026 in powerful new beginnings. So, we don't want to be working in loops anymore that are draining your energy. So today we're going to be talking all about how to close them, turn them into portals that are going to help lead you to your next evolution.
So, if you're new to us today, welcome to Peace Out Witches. We are the podcast where two ordained ministers, Jamie and Stacy, will guide you, if you're the spiritual minded business leader, to your priestess initiation and your divine feminine business energy that you're so wanting to cultivate in your life. This is where magic meets divine feminine mystery meets mastery, and where your sacred calling gets its strategy.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit today about why closing loops matters, especially in a month like December. So if you've been watching our podcast and you caught our season 2 podcast that was the opening for last week, it was all about December and how to really take it slow and call in some of the sacredness of, the holy nights and the things that come together. This week, we're really going to be talking about something that we brought up last week, which was closing loops. And Jamie had mentioned that she really wanted to talk a little bit more about that and have discussions about it because, I think sometimes we really don't even realize what it is. So I think first we should really start with what a loop is. What do we even mean when we say closing loops?
A loop. So it's a cycle. It's the beginning, the process, and then the end. And a lot of us start at the beginning, have progress, and then we stop halfway through, or we're almost done and we're stopped, and then we start on a new loop, and we start a new project or a new book or a new whatever it is that you feel that you are compelled to do and create, but it never comes to completion, or you need to cycle it into completion in order to move on to the next step or to free up your time and creativity. So a loop is a cycle that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And closing up loops just simply means that you've done the work and now you're closing and ending it and you've completed it.
Yeah, I mean, and I see loops like in all different areas. I think it's really important to understand that there can be these bigger things that we call in, and then these littler things that we call in. But the bigger picture is really just about making sure that you are not so full. That your funnel is not so full that the area that you're able to create from, that the area that you're able to imagine from, manifest from, or be able to even live through is not so full with things that haven't been finished or done, or things that are on your list that you want to do that you feel like you can't do. And part of this comes from, different ideas. So this isn't really like just a divine feminine or, witchy idea.
Yeah.
This really, I think,
Right.
more comes from an idea of being more on that neurodivergent side and really, people who are kind of in the neurodivergent space will often have like lists of things that they need to complete. And then they'll have like a shame guilt cycle that will go around the loop of them not being able to complete that thing. And so closing loops is really just about starting at what you're capable of doing and then being able to close those things. And you can use it in all areas of your life, but we're going to talk specifically about in sacred business and closing the loops in sacred business today. So, obviously, in our Gregorian calendar, 2026, we're moving into 2026, we're ending 2025. December would be a really good time to look at the things that you were creating at the beginning of the year and doing some reflection on, the last few months and the beginning of the year, kind of taking the whole year into consideration of what you were trying to build And as you are looking at that, you are kind of weeding out and pruning what you no longer are going to build into 2026, but you're also looking at where you have open, what I call open loops or open funnels in your spaces. So I'm going to give some examples of that. The first example comes to mind when we are onboarding a new client, and a new client comes in, and we're going to have lots of new clients who are on their onboarding journey. And then we're going to have clients who are 3 months into their journey, 6 months into their journey, a year into their journey. And sometimes our experience with new clients is going to be very different than our experience with students or clients from a year later. So closing the loop might look like making sure every month you're having a check-in document with that client or with that student, a reflection time, an opportunity for them to see how much they've grown either each month or throughout that year while working with you and while working through some of the processes that you're supporting them with. Um, Another loop might look like I homeschool my kids. So I might see some gaps and things that I want them to learn. And I might kind of think about like where I might want to pull back or where I might want to push forward in some of the things that are really working for me in that arena and what isn't. And then I also have a home office where I work from in my business. So I will look at my lists that I've written throughout the year and goals that I've had, and I will see if there's certain goals that I need to pick back up and
Mhm.
like what little things I might need to do to complete them, or if there's goals that I need to let go of, but there was things that maybe were unfinished from that, but maybe I need to like close the loop on,
Mhm.
maybe a thank you card or a thank you email, or maybe I am removing contacts from my system because that thing closed. It's just kind of like things like that. Does that
Mhm.
help?
That does. I like to think of a lot of these loops as energy leaks because what
Hmm.
happens is open a loop, whether it be a goal or a project or just something that we're doing that with intention. And we go on to the next task and not complete this one. And then we go on to the next task and not complete the other two. And what happens is that our energy is drained from that. It is a way to not build energy, but a way to release our energy and spread it out thin. And not only is it energy that's physical, but it's also mental chatter, that shame guilt cycle, oh, I have so much to do, but nothing's getting done. The procrastination may set in because it's feeling overwhelming. And these are all energy leaks. So, we're not suggesting closing every loop because some loops you just maybe not do not need to close. They are done. They are already complete even in their infancy, so to speak,
Hmm.
because you took a different direction or you dropped a project that you no longer want to work on, or you've kind of pivoted in your business or with how you are doing things in your business. So you may not need to close the loop. It's just done. But check it off your list. Make it a Find a way to symbolically close it so that it's not being brought forward into your new year, into your new loops that you're creating, new goals that you're creating, and that you can just know that you are complete with it wherever it was. And I think it's just really important to evaluate. This is that evaluation time too. So we like to reflect a lot during this last month of the year, looking back to see what is left undone. What are the things that I feel in my head or think about or put on my list daily that maybe I just don't get to, but I know I need to do them before the end of the year because if I do these things, then I can start my new year clean. And so those are the ones you may want to focus on. It's just prioritize them where your values are, where your direction is in your business, and do these things align with your direction that your business is going? And do they support you? And if they are a yes, do it. And if they are a no, then maybe you don't have to do them because they're complete. There's no longer a need for them.
Hmm.
And then I also want to just add one thing here that we probably won't talk too much about. If you can outsource any of it and have someone help you complete those loops, do it because it does take a load off of you and it does help to delegate work and to have people help you with the smaller tasks so you can focus on your bigger projects that you want to close down and finish.
Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I want to talk a little bit more about the practicality of this, just in our everyday spaces. And so, this is something that I have kind of always done naturally in my life, closing loops. It's something that I do on a constant basis, not just at the end of the year, but it's something that I realized maybe a lot of people don't fully grasp in the way that it helps us actually reclaim our power. And
Mhm.
so I think a lot as women, we talk about the mental load that we carry, and we talk about how we often have a very large mental load and we often walk in survival. And there's these pieces that we feel like we can no longer connect to or channel through, and our, connections, our heart spaces, and our portals, they get closed and they feel a lot further from what we're able to grasp. And so, when we start looking at the areas in our life where we feel the most drained, we can begin to notice where we can do three things. And what I like to do is say, is this something that's still serving me? Is this something I can get help with? And is this something that I want to take with me into the new year or into the new month or into the new week or into my new idea? And then I will begin to, figure that out. And so I'm going to give you some practical ways you could wake up tomorrow and deal with it, right? Like the first thing I could do tomorrow, practically, if I wanted to close some loops and I'm in survival, is I could maybe look at one small area of my house and I could say, can I clear out this area of my house to support me a little bit better? Right? Like, is there things in this area of my house that aren't supporting me? Because that first part of the feng shui energy of like clearing out your spaces really is an important part of closing loops. Okay, then we can go like a little bit deeper, right? Then we can start beginning to see where maybe we're in our schedule not working for us. Where are we always late or showing up and we feel like we didn't do enough? Can we remove something from that day? Can we change our time cycle? Can we, close something there so that we don't have to continue feeling like that on a daily basis with that kind of movement, Like one of the things I used to notice a lot would be I'm a very high energy person. And so I would have a lot of high energy days all planned out, but then I wouldn't account for the fact that I'm actually a hermit too. And so then I would burn out. So closing loops is about really helping yourself look at the full picture and set it up so that when you go into the office that you're going to work in, you're not overwhelmed by your desk that has stuff all over it. Okay.
Mhm.
So I close loops every day at night. Um, and if I didn't get to it in the night, then in the morning because we homeschool. So in the morning when we all wake up, if we didn't clean the house at night, then we'll close all the loops from the night before and we'll put all the toys away and we'll do the dishes and we'll kind of get the house in order. That's kind of like one of the ways that I help my survival stay out of survival and more in thrival in my business and in my home because then my home kind of starts to work a little bit better, right? So we try to do that about an hour before bedtime if we can, kind of reset the house. Everybody does rooms and laundry put away and things go where they're supposed to go. And so that's kind of part of closing loops, right? Is like,
Mhm.
oh, those Legos, they have a bag that goes under your bed and you don't play Legos every day. So
Mhm.
closing that loop means we're going to put all those Legos away in that bag and put it away so that tomorrow morning when I wake up and I sit to drink my coffee at the table where the Legos were spread out before, now I'm able to journal and work with what it is that I need to do today to close my business loops, right?
I
So there's
agree
like
with that.
practical. Yeah,
I
there's like
clean my
practical.
desk. The first thing I do when I come in, if I didn't do it in the evening before I'm done with the day, is I tidy up my desk because
Yes.
I can't think if my desk is a mess. Like I can't cook if my kitchen is dirty. These are just parts of me. But
Hmm.
that's just that knowing that if there's a clean slate, then more creativity comes out of it. It's just an innate intuitive knowing of that.
Yeah.
And we do the same thing. We close loops too. And if we don't do it at night, we do it first thing in the morning so that the day is ready for a new cycle.
Yeah, yeah. And I teach this to my kids because like they don't see it as closing loops, right? They just see it as like, okay,
Mhm.
mom's resetting. We call it reset,
Yeah.
reset time,
Mhm.
Um, so then like we can kind of take it a little bit further and kind of start to look at like some of those opportunities where maybe we had bigger goals and we had some
Mhm.
littler goals and maybe those littler goals didn't get done, so we didn't get to the bigger goal. And I'm just going to give you an example. Jamie and I are ordained ministers and we're teachers. So those are kind of like the first two hats that her and I wear before we are anything else, right? Then we are
Mhm.
businesswomen, and then we are moms and homeschoolers and all the other things that we do.
Mhm.
But we create big things as teachers and ordained ministers. And so those big things, for us is like a workbook or a manual or even like videos for our
Video.
class.
Hmm.
So we don't expect to close those kind of loops before the end of the year, but we
Hmm.
do expect to put some goals in place so that we know exactly how long those bigger dreams are going to take. And they're not just out there in our funnel willy-nilly, oh, we're get them done. We actually are like having deadlines for maybe chapter one or deadlines for week one in a workbook, of 8-week workbook, whatever.
Hmm.
Um, Now, Stacy, I have kids. Stacy, I have a business. Stacy, I have a million other
Job
things.
too.
Yep,
Hmm.
I get it. But it's really important to try to give those times and, be working with this loop system on a weekly basis of like, what kind of loops can I get done today that are going to help me fill this month's loop or this year's loop? And so you can kind of begin to put them in place. And so I'll even give you a home example, right? Like my garage. We moved in a year ago. That's not a loop I'm closing. I go out there, I clean the garage literally the next day. It's still not clean. And we're like, we cleaned it because we just have that much stuff. It, that wouldn't be a practical loop for me to look at and close right now,
Oh yeah,
you
that
know?
takes time.
But a practical loop for me to close that I've been closing lately this month is I've really been like finishing, making sure that those last pieces are organized and put away and kind of like going through, the pre-Christmas
Hmm.
stuff in
Hmm.
my business. This is the time when I start going through. I know this sounds crazy to some people, but I start going through all of my documents and drives and start determining what I'm saving, what I'm removing, what I no longer need to keep. Um, Obviously gathering tax information, things like that. But it's really just about those bigger things that kind of get stuck in your funnel. And I heard someone once say, you know, she was a photographer and she would take pictures and she would try to edit the pictures as soon as she was done taking the pictures, like that weekend. And she's like, because I'm calling in the next client.
Mm.
But if I'm still sitting here with all of these pictures that I have to edit and all this time that I'm not done with, then I always have something more to do. I'm not telling the universe or God that I'm done and completed. I'm
Right.
ready for the next thing.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think oftentimes that is where we put the cart before the horse. You know what I mean? We have these really big dreams, but we don't realize that, wait a minute, we didn't maybe take that reflection step back where we were looking and saying, okay, I'm the eighth grade teacher, but what didn't they learn in seventh grade that I need to teach them first? Or what did they already learn in seventh grade that I don't need to teach them and I can move ahead with?
Mhm.
So, it's not about all of the things that you didn't do either. It's about, oh my God, look at all of these things I've completed and look at all these things that I can work through quickly if I give myself 4 or 5 hours, one day a week for the next 4 weeks. Wow, what would I have accomplished? And, trying to make that a habit in your everyday.
Mhm. And I think there's non-negotiables too. Like if it's easier to do things in smaller steps, you could make three non-negotiables every day that you're going to close a loop on. Maybe for you, it's check your email and make and respond because that's easy. You don't want to get backed up. As soon as you start backing up on your emails, then it's, hard to catch up and it's actually time passes. So there's a sense of urgency in business to make sure you're responding quickly because if people are coming to you for a product or a service, they want quick responses so that you could keep their interest. So maybe that's a non-negotiable every single day. And if that's something you haven't done regularly, just close that loop every day and practice that. I like to do that, but I also have like health ones I do. So I non-negotiables, I drink a certain amount of water each day and I do a certain amount of exercise each day. So there's these little things that even if my energy, my divine feminine energy isn't supporting me doing my big list of things I need to do, because maybe I'm in the middle of my cycle or whatever it is, you can look at the three things and accomplish those things. And the reason why it's really important to have something like that to keep you accountable is because it's building a habit. And once you build a habit of making completed ends or completing loops and finishing things, then you'll find that you'll be finishing things more and more often and it's not so hard. And your brain will start to map out what's more important, what's not. How long will this take? Okay, I have this amount of time, I can do this. And you'll just have a better rhythm and flow with it, and it won't be so hard. It won't
Hmm.
feel so overwhelming because you've already developed a system in your mind. Your mind is already looking at ways of finishing things. So it's going to be easier and easier and easier.
But Jamie, I'm in survival mode. Okay,
Yeah.
so what happens when you have newborn babies and you're supposed to do all the things? No, no. Okay. This is not a time when you're going to be completing a ton of loops.
No,
When
it's
you have
focusing on your child at
newborn
that point.
babies or young
Yeah.
babies or like
Hmm.
in survival in that way, okay? Because that is like a different part in your life. So the loops you're closing there are making
Hmm.
sure that your systems are working for you. You know, are your systems benefiting you so that you're not exhausted at the end of the day? And what that may look like when you have younger children versus older children. My children are older now, we can do a 1 day reset. When my children were younger, we would do like an hourly reset
Hmm.
every hour. What? Reset song. And we would
Right.
reset because it would drive me nuts. Otherwise, I would rage, right? And I started learning that about myself and learning how to give myself spaces. Part of closing loops for me is a weekly bathe ritual where I take a bath and nobody else is with me.
Hmm.
That means children are not at the door, babies are not nursing, husband's not at the, no, 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 all of it gone. That's part of me giving back to me so then I can come back louder, more clear, and be able to have the proper energy that I need to be sovereign in my personal life and in my business.
Hmm. Yeah, that's important because you cannot do anything with a cup that is just absolutely overflowing and too much in that cup. You cannot do anything. You have to empty your cup and then fill your cup with goodness, and then you can put goodness out. But if you're constantly neglecting that part of you, then it becomes harder to even see where you are not stepping up in your life to do the things
Hmm.
you need to do because you're overwhelmed and you're not giving yourself accountability too. And having accountability means taking care of yourself and nurturing yourself as well.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got some like closing loop things that you can do. We'll just kind of take you through a little bit of what
Mhm.
that looks like. So, the day like Jamie was talking about, 24 hours is one of our smallest, loops. And then obviously we've got a weekly, monthly, yearly, and then 5 year, 10 year, right? We've got all these like
Mhm.
bigger things. So we can think of like our bigger goals and then all of our smaller goals. And we can also think about like looking at our schedule. So this is really just something that you can do that is a daily ritual that you can journal about, or you can ask your questions of yourself about, and you can even, come back, pause this part, and then push play and be able to, ask yourself these questions every day if you'd like. So um, the day is the smallest cycle and the easiest to ignore, but every open loop compounds into burnout. So, what we're going to ask you is some questions, and we want you to just acknowledge the question. Now, when you're acknowledging these questions, sometimes it's better not to use yes or no. It might be better to go, uh-huh, uh-uh, or just with your instinct, which is usually more of a gruntle, less of, or a body movement, and less of a yes or no. So, um, without judgment, thinking about closing your eyes and asking what drained me today. And then as you acknowledge that thing that drained you today, breathing out and releasing it without attachment. and then asking yourself if this is something that you need to continue in each day. If it's not, you're done. If it is, you can ask yourself if there's a way to make it easier. Is there a system I can put into place to make this thing less draining? Is there someone I can help or ask for help to make this system less draining? I'll give you a baby example. When I asked myself what drained me today, that question came was, oh, having to clean all of my pumping stuff,
Mm.
all of my pumping stuff from pumping, pumping, pumping all day. So my husband, he said, I'll clean your pumping stuff. And he would clean my pumping stuff every night so that I wouldn't have to clean it. And it released the attachment from it, but I also knew it was going to get done and I knew that he could handle it, that he was going to do it. So there's little things like that that we can ask for within our day to day, within our family, friends, systems to put into place that can help us just get a few moments back of not feeling so drained.
Mhm. Yeah,
Another one, what did I complete today? What
I
did I
like
complete
I
today?
like this one because even if it's tiny, even if it's a small accomplishment, what did you complete? This is so important. This is a great reflection every night. Okay, what did I actually get done today? And if your initial response is nothing, then go deeper because you did something, you completed something. It could be as simple as brushing your teeth, literally. Because sometimes when you're a new mom, or sometimes when you're in the thick of your business and working night and day to develop something, you don't do the self-care. And so if it's brushing your hair, I put a
Mm-hmm.
dress on today, or,
Mm-hmm.
I made myself feel good in some way.
Yeah,
What
in
tiny
my
thing?
manual, I completed lesson one. I completed video
Yeah.
one. I cleared out all my emails.
I wrote a
Uh,
newsletter. That was my
yeah,
accomplishment of the day.
yeah,
Yeah.
I spoke with students. I set up email. I mean,
Hmm.
all the little things you can kind of
Yeah.
think about. This also brings me to one of those loops that I think happens sometimes when women go to bed and they redo the day all over and over and over in their brain. And one of the things that Jamie always taught me was to close the loop on that would be when I laid down in bed to review my day, and to review it backwards. And we never actually talked about it as closing a loop that way, but I
Mhm.
think that it really helped me build confidence and momentum because I stopped going to bed and my brain processing everything I had done through the day, and my brain was able to kind of rest.
Mhm.
So it's a really great practice to be able to, ask yourself, like, what did I do through the day, and just be able to go back. And you're not going back with shame and guilt or um, to be like, oh, I can't believe I said that to her, foot and mouth.
Mhm.
Like, I mean, that's it's really just to kind
A
of
review.
review.
Yeah.
And, I went to the bathroom. Oh, and then I took her there. And then I did this. And then I had to wash those bottles. And then I pumped. And then I had to work in the business and
Mhm.
I had to send those, just like that.
Mhm.
Okay. And then we've got one more journal question for you that I think is a really good one.
Let me see. Hang
Where did I
on.
abandon myself? And how can I
Oh,
return?
oh yeah, definitely. How can I return? Hmm.
And I think that this happens so often in our businesses and in motherhood where we believe that we have to abandon parts of ourselves
Hmm.
to be able to show up or continue on. And I think as a mother, it's probably a very different conversation than as a business. But even
Hmm.
as a business, we have social media, we have these things that we do and these pieces that we have to show up for. And um, we're often asked, are you willing to abandon yourself or
Hmm.
are you going to return? And so, it really is all about a returning back to presence, to confidence, and to feeling just normal and like there is some actual joy in your day to day, in your, 24-hour daily cycle so that you are trying to move through and completing those loops so that that burnout isn't on a daily basis.
I do think that the daily practice is probably the most powerful practice because especially that third question, because then you're giving a voice to a part of you that maybe you've ignored or abandoned for a while. And
Hmm.
at some point, that voice will have a way to speak to you or to show itself, and you can acknowledge it, and then you can integrate it and move on. And it could be one of those things that's actually blocking you in your life. It could be a block, it could be resistance, it could be something that's holding you back or causing you to procrastinate or whatever it is. But you don't know until you do that self-reflection. And generally, when we make decisions that we know are not the best ones, are it's our self-sabotage or fear something, or it comes from something deeper. And when we ask ourselves, where did I abandon myself and how can I return? Then we're giving an opportunity to give that a voice and to shed light on it in some way. It doesn't mean you have to relive the pain. It just means you're acknowledging. You will have aha moments where you're like, oh yeah, I do that. I'm not doing the money making activities because I'm spending all this time over here doing things that do not make me money because it's
Hmm.
easier, or I'm scared of making money, or whatever it is. So these three questions daily, and reviewing your day backwards when you lay down at night, starting with the moment you lay down all the way back until you woke up, can be the catalyst to closing your loops and recognizing where you need to.
Yeah. So what drained you today? Acknowledging without judgment, releasing without attachment. What did I complete today, even if it was tiny?
Mhm.
Allowing completion in your mind to build confidence and allowing that confidence to build momentum and energy for tomorrow. And where did I abandon myself and how can I return?
Right.
This is where you begin to return to yourself every night. And one of the things that I love to do is just put my hands on my heart and be able to just take deep breaths. And I often will, do the breath that is the most comfortable with me and just take it as deep as I can, all the way into my belly. If I feel called, I'll go in through my nose and out through my mouth. And I just try to really allow that breath to come into my belly. I like to take 3 deep breaths and then just really say, like, thank you for my day.
Mhm.
If you pray, this is a great time to be able to just pray and show gratitude for the things that you've been able to accomplish and, give blessing to. And then I like to just leave with, allow my tomorrow to come with clarity or, protect me tomorrow. And then I want to give some just practical things you can do in your business because I think sometimes when we have these loop conversations, people get really overwhelmed and they're like, "Oh my God, I have all these things,"
I got to
So
finish everything.
yeah, so I just want to give
Mhm.
some practical things that I do that help me homeschool my kids, run a business, help my husband, run a family, be a sister, mother, friend, all the things. So I have also ADHD, and I am pretty sure I'm going through perimenopause. So I work a lot on um, helping my body physically and my nutritious, you know, what I eat, support me so that I'm able to accomplish more things throughout my week, but also support my rhythms on a monthly basis. And so when I am closing loops during the month, I know and acknowledge with myself that there's going to be weeks when I got a ton of stuff done, and there's going to be weeks when I didn't get anything done at all, and I'm not going to be expected to get anything done. And so I really try to plan that within my month. One of
Mhm.
the other things that I do is I have little mini books. You can get them all over in any kind of way that you want. And I have different colors for each of mine. So I have one that is for homeschool planning, I have one that is for my business, and I have one that is for my personal stuff. And then one for when I'm working on my husband's business stuff because I help him there. I also have one that I use when I'm working with clients that supports me in like keeping track of, my students and clients and the people and women that I'm working with. So usually I color code those. And when I was a teacher, I would do Monday through Friday and have color coded files for each of those days. And I will move things, in those color coded folders or in those binders or, in those little notebooks that are oriented with just that. So, for example, if I'm working on my business list for 2 hours, then I will have my business list with my business book and my business paperwork. And when I'm done with that, I will put it away in a specific place in my office so that when I'm working on my homeschool stuff, I'm not working on my business stuff at the same time. I also have things that I will put into my calendar that I know, like I do bills on Fridays. So bills will come in and they go in a certain place, and I know I close those loops every Friday. And if I can't close a certain loop a certain Friday, I'll move it to like the next week. Um, I also do that with my lists. I will, in order to get everything out of my head, because I am ADHD, this is just one of the things I've always done since I was a young girl. Because, I mean, it wasn't an option like in the 80s to be ADHD. Okay. You just had to like work harder, be smarter. So
That's
I
so
would
true.
just write on my lists for what I
Mhm.
had to do for school because I was a student, and then write on my list that I had to do for work because I was a worker, and then write on my list that I had to do for, starting my business, and writing my list for everything I had to do for my baby and my home and my work. And then I would like look at them all on my table, be really overwhelmed, right? Like, including probably my house is a mess at this point too. And then I would number them from easiest to hardest,
Hmm.
easiest to hardest.
I did
And
that.
so then I would try to accomplish the easiest things that day that I knew I could
Mhm.
accomplish. And I would begin to determine how I was going to accomplish some of those harder things. Like, could I break them into smaller tasks? For example, if it was writing a manual, then I could every week give myself one lesson in the manual.
Mhm.
So then I didn't have to feel like I didn't do anything in the manual and I was doing something, but it wasn't this or that. For for homeschool, I'll put bigger ideas that I want to do, or business even, like bigger ideas that I want to do. And then I'll just let them mester there a little bit and I'll try to create things to add to those bigger ideas, but they're
Mhm.
not like things that I know I'm like ultimately creating right now because I'm kind of working through all of these other things. Okay,
Yeah.
so then what? I don't continue to give myself a list like that.
It's
That's my then what,
overwhelming.
right? Because
Hmm.
I eventually begin to remove things from those lists that no longer need to touch my hands.
Hmm.
Now, for me, I have older kids, so I have little people that can do chores right around now. And so, one of the things that I ultimately don't have to do right now is clean my house. It's not going to be clean though because my kids are cleaning it. So, you know,
Kids are
w-
cleaning.
once a week I do
Hmm.
like a deep cleaning of the house. And if I don't get to it, I'm okay because I know it's at least getting like a surface clean every week from the kids, right? So there's things that I've had to like give up in my closing loops that I don't have to be perfect.
Hmm.
Um, in my businesses, I begin to realize that there's certain things that are going to be year plans, 2-year plans, 3-year plans,
Hmm.
not 3-month plans, 6-month plans.
Oh yeah.
Um, I also begin to time out things, like try not to mesh different things. So I try to really have times when I'm sitting down and completing things and when I'm not.
Like a block
Um,
of time
yes.
set aside. Yeah, I like that too.
And then I do not work on any of the other lists for anything else when I'm working on that one thing. So if I'm working on the business, I only have business papers on my desk
Hmm.
and business lists on my desk. And I have one calendar, not a business calendar. But, if I'm working with my business calendar, it would be just my business stuff. So hopefully that kind of helps. Um, I do say no to a lot of things because I was in survival for so long. I learned even though I can lead things like Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts and still run a business, I would just do less with them. I would set my plan for the year. I would make sure that I was um, setting up a plan for the year that worked for me. And I do this in anything in my business too, because our business goes on 13-month circles and we do 13-month programs. So I set up a business that works for me for those 13 months. Okay, each of these sessions in this business circle are going to work for me for this 13 months. I've already, before I put those business sessions in, put my birthdays in, my vacations
All
in,
everything goes in first,
yeah,
and then the
anniversaries.
business.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Then we put the 13-month business in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I put the baseball in.
Mm-hmm.
And then the
Right.
ones that I'm not able to do, I either change the business meeting if I can,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not done yet with that business, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then ultimately, what I do is I do that every 3 months. I will readjust that schedule as needed. And I ask
Mm-hmm.
for help. I have 4 kids. I have a lot of people who pick up and drop off for me, and I pick up and drop off for them. We share the load there.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's ways that you can begin to say no. We don't go to every birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? How did you stop having, a million to-do lists and bringing it down to like manageable?
I had to clarify the very most important things that I needed to do in a day. I have the bigger picture because I do like to know what's coming up and what to plan for. But I also just really like day by day. I honestly don't plan the next day unless I absolutely have to because I think it overwhelms me a little bit and it's easier for me to actually complete a task or two extra or at least complete something if I focus on one day at a time. I
I
do
do
have my
not give
goals.
tomorrow tasks.
Yeah, and I don't have I have my goals. We have our goals. We have our business, personal, family goals, and we know what they are. And then I just work backwards. I
Hmm.
have, what I need to do by what deadline. And when I'm tired and overwhelmed and I'm getting frustrated a lot, then I just know that I have to clean the slate. And I say no. And I just say, I can't do it today. I need to take a whole day. And I
Hmm.
do. And then usually when I take a whole day of not dealing with my loops, then the next day I can do two or three and get
Yeah.
the bigger ones done because I know that it's just too much and I need a day to reset.
I do take the mornings to give my to-do lists, but I do often put like bills or papers that need to be filled out or something like that, like
Mhm.
on my Monday through Friday file. I'll stick it in the next tomorrow
Mhm.
file, or that's a Friday, 3 days from now file, deal with that later.
Yeah.
Now, maybe later.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So really, I think the most important thing is number one, you're not doing it all.
No.
Number two, maybe pick an area in your life where you feel stuck and see if there's some things that are open there for yourself that you can close that can get you kind of starting to move in that area of your life again. And start there, right? Don't
Mhm.
do your home and your homeschool and your business and all the things at
No.
once like I'm currently
Mm.
doing. Um,
Build
if
to build to
unless you
that.
like to work like that, you know what I mean? I
Mhm.
tend to go from thing to thing. Um, okay, and then the third thing is that closing loops is really about looking at the systems put in place, the things that you're working through, and the things that you currently have in your funnel to get done, and figuring
Mhm.
out what you can complete 100% and get 100% off of your plate.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and I think, we can do that in a lot of different areas of our life. So I think this just really pertains. And when you're feeling like you're really in survival, then,
Yeah.
making those systems as easy as possible in every area of your life is really great.
And just take it one task at a time. But once you get the momentum of closing your loops, then like I said, your brain will find ways to take the bigger ones and get them done faster because you are building a system and you're building a new perspective. It really does change your perspective when you realize that you're not failing at something. You're not failing at it. You're not procrastinating. You just need to put it into your daily schedule. And when you're ready, tackle it. And if you're not ready for that one, tackle another one, just little things
Hmm.
and get them done. And
Yeah.
but we never really talked about why we like to do that for this time of year. I mean, we never touched upon the best part of why we do it, why we reflect, and why December is so important. And I think the energies of winter really support new creation because if you really work with the energies of winter and slow down and take time to meditate and to journal and reflect, but also go into a space of asking for guidance, spiritual guidance, I do believe you will receive that guidance and you can
Hmm.
plan for your next year with that guidance. And so
Yeah.
closing
I
those
mean,
loops is really important for that.
Yeah, this is your end of year, threshold. I mean,
Mhm.
with the New Year coming in February, like I really love to start to finish off as many of those loops as I can in December so
Mhm.
that I really am carrying into January the things that I want to carry with me in February. Like I kind of think of it like my camping trip, you know what I mean? Like I plan for my camping trip in December, I pack for my camping trip in January, and then I get to go on it on February. Well,
Mhm.
if I am able to process these systems and close these loops, it allows an initiation of creation that puts the horse in front of the car instead of the cart in front of the
Yeah.
horse and allows me to ride. You know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
get to just go for the ride. And you really
Mhm.
do start to notice that when you complete and finish these loops, it opens direction in those areas of your life. Like, it will really move those stagnant areas.
Mhm.
Especially in our businesses. I mean, the thing is I think sometimes we really don't celebrate the things that we completed over the year when we don't think the year was as great as we think it should have been. And
Mhm.
I think that sometimes it's important to remember that this year we may be living our dream from 5 years ago.
That's true.
And so the dream that we had this year that we dreamed up,
Mhm.
it's still coming. It's still in momentum. It's still moving, but maybe you are still closing loops from things that you dreamed up 3, 4, 5 years ago that you don't even realize you're closing because they were just part of your dream. They were part of what you were calling in and where you wanted to be and what you were living. And so, going back to that reflection allows for you to see where you're still open and where those things are closed, where
Mhm.
you want to continue to show up and initiate in your life, maybe even where you need more direction and you need help.
Mhm.
Hey, this area didn't go so great. I need more help with this. I need to ask questions about this. I need to go to school for this or learn more, or get a mentor in this area, right? And then
100%.
it allows you to stand in the doorway and get the big picture,
Mhm.
take a breath, and it allows you to honor what you've walked away from, what you're walking towards. And
Mhm.
closing the loops for the year really just help you open that portal to all of the evolution that you're calling into this next year.
Mhm. Yeah.
So it's an important time to integrate. And I think that
Yeah.
we can't integrate without first closing those loops and really having that,
Completion.
yeah, that completion and reflection,
Because you
of,
don't want to go into the new year burnt out and exhausted. You want to go into the new year, maybe not even recharged, but more confident. Confident that you've
yeah.
done a lot and did what you need to do this year, and you're ready for the next year, whatever that may bring for you.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's important too to think about it too. I do really have a teacher hat on oftentimes. And so I think sometimes about how, teachers start school in August or September, which is really like the worst time to start school. And then they end school around May or June.
Hmm.
And they have semesters. And I think oftentimes, they'll get to the end of the semester and they will get ready to finish that loop, and they'll think, there's all these things I didn't do. There's
Hmm.
all these things I didn't teach yet. There's all these things that I didn't do yet. And then they try to cram it all into the end of the next semester. And it still doesn't work because, you still just like planned too much and didn't, and, you had to like remove things and things like that. But
Yeah,
that's, I think, the important part of remembering about closing loops is that I don't care what classroom you're in, what you're doing in life, you're never going to close every single loop or teach every
no.
single thing that you want to teach or touch every single thing that you want to touch. Even if you are the most amazing business in the world, you're still going to have new dreams that you're dreaming up for the next best thing, right? So
Right.
it's just about giving you a good solid ground.
Hmm.
And when my ground is wobbly because I'm overwhelmed and in survival and I can't even, you know, wake up and enjoy like being in my basics parts of my life, then
Hmm.
it's really hard to be able to dream about those next pieces. And so it's good to prune. We prune trees, prune ourselves,
Yeah,
prune your schedule, prune your home,
your
prune your
energy loop.
business. Yeah, prune what you're calling in and not calling in.
Hmm.
Maybe the reason that you're living 5 years ago dream because you never closed the loop on it.
That's true. That is
You
true.
never were like, oh my God, I got that. Thank you so much. You
Mhm.
know? I think also the snake just brought a lot of that. Um, the snake's going into hibernation right now.
Mhm.
It's not shedding its skin anymore. So this is that wintry time where, even in our lunar, year that we're in with the snake right now, and we're working with the wood snake, it really has been a year of shedding skin to get you more grounded and clear and integrated on your path. And so, when you are feeling these yeses in your body and you're feeling like, yes, I know I need this shift. Yes, I know I need to close these
Mhm.
loops. Yes, I know I need to take these steps in my business, but how?
Yeah.
Maybe you are looking for a mentor. Maybe you're at the place where you're feeling like you really need some support. Jamie and I are ordained ministers. We do in December do our 16 Divine Nights, but we also have our Business Foundation program and our Professional Priestess Academy that teaches you all about your sacred business, building your sacred business, and gives you not only the foundations that you need to build a business, but gives you the knowledge and equips you with the tools that you need to be able to work with people sitting in front of you, people one-on-one, and people in small group ritual and ceremony. So, if that's something that you'd like to learn more information about, we always have a link below. And we would also love for you to comment below. What else would you like to learn about? What is it that you have questions about? What would you like us to talk about next? Thank you for closing loops with us on Peace Out Witches. Remember, peace isn't perfection, peace is power, and portals open for the women who make space for them.
Peace out, witches.
Peace out, witches.